Hello there, fellow athletes. This is Josh, and I am the mid-pack CrossFitter. If you have found this video, unfortunately, you're in a tough spot. You probably just ripped your hands, which can be an excruciating experience. It can be terrifying the first time, and it's something that we need to deal with, and then we're also going to need to prevent it in the future. So those are the two things that I'm going to cover today. A few things that I've personally learned about what to do when you rip, and then how not to rip in the future. The first thing to do is don't freak out too much. If you look down, there's blood everywhere. You see that a few of those bubbles of skin have been ripped off, and it's hurting badly. Just realize that this too will pass. It's just going to be a few days to a couple weeks where you're going to have a little bit of additional pain, and this will be over. And so the first thing to do is to assess the situation, figure out, do you need to get right back into action immediately, which is going to prolong the time that's going to take to heal, or are you going to be able to treat this right and take a day or two off of those movements like bar muscle ups and pull ups and anything that's really going to be, particularly grindy on your hand. So in the case that you need to go right back into action, there are a few applications that you could put right over that area, and you could kind of stick it on there. They're relatively expensive, or you could utilize this. It's called New Skin. It hurts like the dickens as soon as you put it on. But it does seal that area. So I don't really recommend using this ever. But if you were in a tight spot and you need to use one of those two applications to be able to get right back into action, if you're in a competition or something, that might be a good idea. The first thing that I would recommend doing is cleaning out the area. So it's probably going to be either up here on the pads or right in the middle. That you have that rip and that skin is partially off. It needs to come all the way off. So go and wash out that area, make sure there's no dirt, grime, oil, anything in there, and make sure that you either use a pair of scissors or use some clean clippers or whatever it takes to be able to remove the excess skin that is over that area, so that it can start to heal. The next thing you want to do is you want to apply something that's like a triple antibiotic or a burn cream. So there's a lot of these. Aquaphor is an excellent one. It kind of looks like this. I'm not sponsored by any of these products, but I think that they are fantastic, and you can find them just in any local drugstore, or if you go kind of down to Wally World or wherever, your grocery store, you're going to be able to pick these up. And so Aquaphor is a good one you can put right on. Another one I really recommend, and they have some with pain reliever, some regular, is Neosporin. Neosporin is a really well-known option, and you can put Neosporin, just put it right over the area, and then you can either let that dry and then reapply, or a good alternative when you're in your first day there is to put it on and then go ahead and take a piece of athletic tape or a Band-Aid and then cover the spot to make sure that it's not going to be every time you touch something with your hands, it's off, right? So if you put that tape over, that's going to be a good option, particularly good because Band-Aids will often not fit those areas of your pads, and they'll fall off. So you want something that's secure enough that it's going to stay over and keep the dirt out of that wound while it heals. Once you have that, that's what you're going to have as an application a few times during the day. So that'll keep things clear and clean when you're out and about and you're doing your daily activities. Then if you need to go back into a workout or something like that, or you're going to be using your hands, but you want them to maintain the moisture and the cleanliness and everything that you need to be able to heal, then there's a few options for that. So I don't recommend using these too often, but I do have a climber a climber, they call it Incredible Skin Climb On. And I have one called Tiger Balm. And either of these, if you're trying to have something that's going to stick to the wound area to cover it and let it continue to heal, but you are going to be active with your hands, then one of those could be a good sort of splint for you during that time. All right, now this is the most important part of healing. Just as a quick aside, you're probably going to go in the shower after you've at some point, probably right after, because you just worked out, and it's just going to burn like crazy because it's just an exposed wound on your hand, right? So just be ready for that. It does help to clean it out, so don't worry too much about it, but just be aware of that. You're gonna want to minimize the amount of time that you're suffering in the shower after that. Now, this is the most important part of healing process. The other parts, it will accelerate it that you keep it moist, clean, and clear. Those are the important factors during the middle of the day. But at night and anytime that you're not using your hands, you could either use a glove over, or you could use the tape, or you could just have it right on your hand and just let your hand relax during that time. You're going to want to have something like this. And this is something that you can pick up right at Costco or wherever you are. But it has vitamins in it, and it has some of that moisturizing cream. The main vitamins that you're looking for are listed on here: A, E, and D. A, E, and D vitamins are the vitamins that you want to apply directly over once you have that first layer of skin and you're rebuilding. You put A, E, and D on there, and it's going to accelerate like that. You're going to be healed up in no time. In fact, the last time I ripped my hands, it was about 3 days ago, and it healed the next day. I just put that on overnight, and I was back to doing pull-ups 2 days later. So it's definitely helpful. Pick up something like A, E, and D and put it on there, and that's going to heal you right up. Okay. Arguably more important, let's talk about how not to rip your hands in the future. So I've personally experienced this where my first year doing CrossFit, I must have ripped my hands maybe 7+ times. I just would consistently, every month I would rip my hands, didn't know what to do really about it, and talked to a lot of people. And so I found a few things out, and this is what I would do to, in the future, not rip your hands. So one of those things is just to know, how is it happening? So the main thing that will cause you to rip your hands is a buildup of calluses that becomes dry and has too much friction. And so if there's too much friction when you're up on the bar and there's dry layers and layers and layers of skin, that's where it's gonna rip off. It's a great adaptation that your body has. It's like, we're gonna be doing this action, so let's put some extra skin up on there. But the problem is that it overdoes it, and then it's not as smooth and pliable. So there's a few things you can do about that. There are shavers that will allow you to shave off some of that top layer of skin, or really the surrounding of the pads of the skin. There are different types of sandpaper. There's even products you could buy right on Rogue or wherever you want to that will allow you to shave down with the sandpaper. You could even use those that are for your nails to shave that down with a sandpaper motion. But what I really recommend is this, I don't even know the brand, but it's a cheap roller, and the roller has the sandpaper right on there. And it just plugs in, so it's no sweat, and you're able to get right on that pad and go around the edge of the pad very quickly. It only takes about 10-15 seconds, and you could do that over a sink or a garbage can. And what that's going to do is it's going to reduce the layer, and it's going to make it a pliable layer so that it doesn't rip. So that's what you really want to do, and it just kind of goes right around the edge, and it'll take that right off. And so you won't have to worry. You won't have too thick of pads, so they won't rip. And so definitely recommend picking one of these up. You can get them on Amazon. They're really cheap. and just look for like a foot. It's sort of like a foot roller, but it's a piece of sandpaper that rips around, takes that skin off, and you're going to be good to go. Okay. The other thing you need to know about not ripping is that you're going to want to have the right equipment. So when you go to get up on the bar, if there's, like residue from tape on the bar and you're just using your hands all the time on the bar, that can get pretty taxing. So you want to have a great pair of grips and you want to know how to use those grips on the bar. So here's a few of the different grips that I've tried out. There are many different types of grips, and a lot of my friends use the frog grips. Those are excellent. But the very first ones that were recommended to me, I was watching Grubb's channel, and some of the really great athletes, and they said Bear Complex, that's the way to go. So I got Bear Complex grips. They're mid. I really wouldn't say they're the best grips, but they're not the worst grips either. And there's a couple things that are kind of working against them here. This is pretty thin for your wrist, and what you really want to do when you get up onto the bar is have as direct of a transfer from kind of your hand position to your wrist, and that's gonna allow you to make those movements. So this could be thicker, and then this has these holes. So the holes. There's one benefit to the holes, and I think it's very overrated, and that benefit is the dowel effect. If you have extra long grips and you have holes in the grips, you can go around the bar, create a flux that creates a dowel effect, and it will pull you up a little bit more. That is not anywhere near as important as just being as close as possible to your wrist. So I would just forget about, if I was you, I'd just forget about these holes for your fingers. Don't worry about them at all, or don't even buy grips that have them. And you'll just learn to use your own momentum right on the bar. Now there are a lot of different types. That was sort of their plasticky type. These are their diamond. They have some traditional leather ones that are decent. So Bear Complex, that's an option. Another one that I would say they're okay, and I kind of like this extra groove here, is these boy, I can't even see the brand, but I believe they're Victory, right? And I have a friend that uses these Victory grips and loves them. I think that the tackiness and the stickiness of it's really good. This is too thin, and they're not really long enough, even if you get the right size. So that's not the one that I ended up using. And these are my favorite right now. They're thick throughout, which really saves your hands. They transfer really well right to your wrists, and they have a thick piece right here. They're called reps and sets. That thick piece goes right around your wrist, makes you feel really secure there. And one thing that I definitely need to mention about that is if you have these some type of wrist placement that you can put on with those, they even come right with the reps and sets. They have a reps and set wrist guard like that. Definitely recommend using those, because I've had 2 or 3 times where I got caught up on the bar and it ripped down and created bruising on the top of my hand because I either had too thin of a piece here, or I didn't have anything underneath, and so there was just nowhere for that pressure to go, and so it just yanked on my wrist. And this is a great way to prevent that. So you can place it right here, right next to your wrist. And then when you go up on the bar, you're not just trying to put your hand on the bar, but if you go into a false grip, either with your thumb here or here, it doesn't matter, then you're making sure that your wrist is directly over the bar, and you're transferring all your weight right into the grip. That's going to save you a lot of pressure on your hands and everywhere else. So those are just a few quick tips. If I could summarize, I would say if you do rip, make sure that it's clean, it's cleared out, and you're applying something like a triple antibiotic and AE and D to that wound site. It'll heal right up. Here's that one just from a few days ago. It's all healed up, ready to go. And then on the other hand, how not to rip, just make sure that you're paying attention to areas that are becoming too dry and too overloaded with skin. And if you clear those out, they'll become pliable again. You could use the roller that I mentioned. You could use sandpaper. You could use a shaver, whatever it is that allows you to quickly and just carefully, just a couple times a week, take that down. You're going to be having a lot better time because you're not going to rip.